There was a night when everything I had built was coming apart at the same time. Career, reputation, relationships, the specific structure of a life I had spent decades constructing, going all at once. I was sitting alone in a room and the noise had finally stopped and there was nothing left to manage or deny or run toward, just me and what was actually true. I want to tell you what I found in that room. Not the dramatic version, the real one. Because what I found was not what I expected, and it changed everything that came after it. What I am going to talk about is not suffering. There is no shortage of people willing to talk about suffering. What I want to talk about is what the suffering is for. Because the men who go through a real collapse and come out the other side carrying something, not just surviving, actually carrying something, understand something about the mechanism of it that the men who never went through it do not understand. And that understanding changes how you hold what is happening to you right now. Stay with me through this. Come back to it on the day the floor gives out under you. That is exactly when it applies. The second time through, you will hear something you missed. The first thing, the one that took me the longest to understand, and the one that makes everything else make sense. A full cup cannot receive anything. God does not break ruined men. He does not go looking for the man who is already on his knees, already empty, already out of options. That man is available. He has been stripped by circumstance. What God does, and you can see this pattern across every life that produced something real, in every century, in every tradition, is break the capable man. The man who has built something, the man who has figured it out, the man who has enough skill and enough success and enough certainty that he has stopped needing anything he cannot supply himself. That man is the one who gets broken, not as punishment, as preparation. Think about two men. The first man goes through a hard period in his 30s, loses a position, loses a relationship, hits a wall. He is genuinely hurt. He recovers, he rebuilds. He is tougher for it and grateful for it, and he carries the experience as a kind of credential. The second man builds steadily for 2 decades. Career, reputation, the sense of being someone who has figured out how to operate in the world. He is competent, he is respected, and at the height of it, at the exact moment of maximum certainty, the floor gives way. The first man's break was circumstantial. The second man's break was intentional, and they are not the same thing. The first man talks about what he went through as a hard time that built character, and it did. But there is a different quality to the second man's break, the one that arrives at the moment of certainty. It does not feel like a hard time. It feels like an undoing. Like the specific ground you had been standing on for decades simply stops holding weight. And the reason it feels that way is because that is exactly what happened. You were not knocked down. The floor was removed. I was the second man. And the specific thing that took me so long to understand was that the collapse was not the end of something. It was the end of the thing that was in the way of something. The cup had to be emptied before it could hold anything real. Think about what a cup that is full actually is. It is a cup that can receive nothing. You can pour something into a full cup, but it goes over the side and you've wasted it. The cup that can receive is the empty one. And a man who has been made sufficient by his own effort, who has filled himself with his own capability, his own certainty, his own constructed story about who he is and what he can do, is a full cup. Not as a judgment, as a physical fact. A full cup cannot receive anything. That is not a metaphor. It is the precise mechanism of what happens when a man who is sufficient in himself encounters something larger than himself. There is no room. The sufficiency blocks the entry. Have you ever been around a man who was completely certain of himself and noticed that nothing could get through to him, not information, not other people, not even his own experience? That is what a full cup looks like from the outside. That is what I mean. The certainty fills the available space. The breaking is not the destruction of the man. It is the creation of the capacity. The second thing, this one is the most counterintuitive and for most men the most uncomfortable to sit with. He does not break you when you are down. He breaks you when you are certain. When you are already at the bottom, the breaking is redundant. There is nothing to dislodge. A man in genuine ruin does not need to be humbled. He is already there. The timing of a real break, the kind that precedes something significant, is almost always at a moment of confidence, of capability, of the specific self-assurance that comes from having built something that works. I had that assurance. I am not using the word to condemn it. It was earned in the ordinary sense. Decades of work, real results. A position in the world built from almost nothing. The confidence was the natural product of genuine effort. And it was precisely that the specific certainty that I had enough, that I was enough, that the machinery I had built was sufficient, that had to go. Because the machinery was sufficient for what I had been doing. It was not sufficient for what came next. And there was no way to make room for what came next without dismantling what was there. Here is what nobody tells you about certainty. It feels like a foundation, but it functions like a ceiling. A certain man stops asking certain questions. He has resolved them in his own favor, and the resolution is load-bearing he has built on top of it. The break does not remove the ground. It removes the false ceiling, it forces the questions back open, and those questions, open again after years of being closed, are uncomfortable in a very specific way. They are uncomfortable because you already know what you would find if you answered them honestly. The certainty was protecting you from having to do that. Some men are broken twice. The first break does not hold because they rebuild too fast from the same materials, and the structure collapses again at the same pressure point. The first collapse teaches you what fell. The second collapse teaches you why it was always going to. If you are in a second break right now, that is not a sign you are hopeless. That is a sign you did not read the map the first time. The map is still there. It is more legible now. Which version are you in? The first break, where the ground is still shifting and you have not yet had to reckon with what it means? Or the second, where the story you told yourself about the first one has also gone? Both are painful. The second one is more honest. Which one requires more from you right now? The third thing. This is the one that frightened me when I saw it clearly. The break is never random. It is always surgical. It finds exactly the thing you were leaning on hardest, not the weakest point in the structure. The load-bearing wall, the place your self-sufficiency was most complete. For some men, it is their intelligence. For others, it is their reputation, their physical capacity, their relationships, their money, their career, their sense of being the man in the room who has things figured out. Whatever you have been using as the thing that tells you that you are enough, that is what goes. Not by accident, because the specific thing that needs to break is the thing you were using instead of what was supposed to be there. I understood this when I looked back honestly at what had actually collapsed and what had not. The things that broke were the things I had been most certain about. The things that remained were the things I had not built my identity on the faith, the specific commitments, the relationships that were not contingent on my position. What the break revealed was a map. Here is what you were actually standing on, and here is what you were pretending to stand on. That map is the most valuable thing a collapse produces. Most men are too busy trying to recover to read it. Have you read yours? Picture yourself in the first week after the hardest thing that has happened to you. Not managing it, not performing recovery, just in it. What did you reach for? What was still there when everything movable had moved? That is the real foundation. And that is what the breaking was showing you. The thing most men do with that map is fold it up and put it away as fast as possible, because looking at it is unbearable. It shows too clearly what was real and what was not. What the life was actually built on versus what it appeared to be built on. Most men cannot hold that information without immediately moving to cover it with action, the new plan. The next thing, the recovery, that is really just the same structure going up faster on the same ground. But the map is the gift. The map is the thing the collapse produced that no success could have produced. A man who has never had his structure collapse does not know what it is sitting on. He cannot know, he has never needed to look. The man whose structure collapsed is the only man who gets to see what was underneath. And seeing it, truly seeing it, not performing the seeing of it, is the beginning of building something that holds. The fourth thing, I have to speak most personally here, because this is the place where faith and collapse meet. And you cannot speak honestly about it from the outside. The prayer that is not answered the way you asked it is the most important prayer you will ever pray. In the Garden of Gethsemane, the night before the crucifixion, Christ asked for the cup to be removed. The most specific and anguished prayer in the record, not abstract suffering, not noble resignation, genuine human asking, if it is possible, let this pass. And it did not pass. The cup was not removed. The answer to that prayer was not what was asked for. I spent years with the Passion of the Christ before I made it, years thinking about that night, about what it meant that the prayer was not answered the way it was asked. And what I eventually understood, not as theology, as something I recognized from my own experience, was that the unanswered prayer is not the absence of an answer, it is a specific answer, not that way. This way. The way you cannot yet see from inside the asking. The cup I was asking to be removed in that room. I did not want what was happening. I asked for it to stop. It did not stop. And on the other side of it, eventually, it became impossible to see the thing I had been trying to protect as the right thing to protect. Not because I made peace with the loss, because what came after was larger than what I had been trying to hold on to. The passion came after. The work that mattered most came after. None of it could have come before the cup. Not my will, but yours, is the hardest sentence a man can say and mean. It requires the specific surrender of believing that your vision of the situation is more limited than the one above it. That the cup you are asking to be removed might be the cup that contains exactly what needs to happen. What made that sentence real to me, not as theology, but as something I had to actually mean, was understanding that the alternative is not maintaining control. The alternative is the illusion of control. A man who insists on his own will in a situation that is beyond his control is not in control. He is simply refusing to acknowledge that he is not. The surrender is not weakness, it is accuracy. It is the specific honesty of saying, I cannot see the whole of this. I am going to trust the part of it I cannot see. Most men I have known who came through a real breaking and made something of what came after it arrived at some version of that sentence, not always in religious language. But the structure of it was the same. A point at which they stopped insisting that their vision of what should happen was the correct one, and started moving toward what was actually happening. That shift from insisting to accepting and then moving is the turn. Everything that comes after the breaking depends on making that turn. Does that sound like something you are resisting right now? The acceptance that what is happening might be the right thing, even though it is not what you asked for. Here is the exercise. Take a piece of paper, write down the specific thing you have been asking for that has not arrived, not as complaint as a fact. Then write underneath it, what if the answer is not no, but not that way? Then write one line, what might be on the other side of this that I cannot currently see? Not what you hope. What might actually be there, given everything you know about how things have worked in lives you have watched. Keep the paper, read it in a few months. What you write in that third line will be closer to the truth than the prayer you keep repeating. Come back to this when the specific thing you asked for has still not come. That is when this section matters most. The fifth thing. This is the reframe, the one that changes how you hold what is happening. He does not break you. He breaks what is in the way of you. That distinction sounds small. It is not. It is the difference between a man who survives a collapse and a man who is destroyed by one. The man who believes the breaking is about him, that he is the thing being dismantled, experiences it as the end of himself. He cannot rebuild, because he does not know what he is rebuilding with. The man who understands that what broke was not him, but the obstacle standing between him and what he was supposed to become, that man can look at the rubble and see materials. There was a man named Stephen, serious man, someone who had built something real across many years. He went through a collapse, visible, complete, the kind that is impossible to hide, and he rebuilt fast. Faster than the situation warranted. He used the same materials, the same certainty, the same assumptions, the same operating structure. He built essentially the same thing, faster, to prove it could be done. Within a few years, the same collapse happened again. The second one was harder than the first, not only because of what it cost him, but because it also destroyed the story he had told himself, that the first collapse was circumstantial rather than structural. The second one made it impossible to maintain that story. The first collapse was a signal. He covered it with speed. The second collapse was the signal arriving again, louder and more specific. And when he finally stopped moving fast enough to outrun it, he found the thing the first collapse had been trying to show him, the actual foundation problem. The thing that both structures had been built on that could not support the weight he was putting on it. You already know which of those two men you are being right now. Stop moving, stop building, stop covering it with speed. Sit in what actually happened. You know which one is honest. What Stephen eventually found in the wreckage of the second collapse was something the first collapse had been pointing at the whole time. A specific assumption he had been running on about what made him worth being around, about what his value was to the people in his life that was not true and had never been true. The first business had been built on that assumption. The second business had been built on the same assumption, reconstructed. Both collapsed at the same point because they had the same flaw in the foundation. When he found it, when he was finally still enough and honest enough to look at it directly, it was both devastating and clarifying. Devastating because of what it meant about the years he had spent. Clarifying because now he knew he was not broken. That specific assumption was broken, and the man underneath the assumption was different from the man who had been running on it. Quieter, less impressive in the performative sense, more actual. He built again after the second collapse, smaller, slower, on different ground. And the thing he built held in a way neither of the first two structures had held, because for the first time it was sitting on something true. Stop rebuilding from the same materials. The answer is in the rubble. Read the map before you clear it. What is the one assumption you have been rebuilding on that the collapse was trying to show you is not solid? The sixth thing, the other side of the break, what the rebuild is actually made of. The decisions I made after the collapse were made by a different man than the one who had made decisions before it. Not a better man in the comfortable sense. A man with less certainty about himself and more certainty about the direction. That is a specific kind of knowing that the capable, self-sufficient man does not have, because the capable man's certainty is about himself. The broken man's certainty, if it survives the break, is about something outside himself. Those are different foundations. When every studio told me no on the passion, I was not operating from confidence. I was operating from something quieter. A specific conviction about what needed to exist, held in the absence of institutional support, funded by my own money, made without permission from the people whose approval I had spent years chasing. The film was a prayer, not metaphorically. It was made in the specific mode of a man who had been emptied of the certainty that he knew best, and who was therefore available for something that required more than he could supply himself. What came out of that willingness was different from anything I had made before. Not because the craft was different, because the man making it had been through a room like that night I described, and he was no longer the full cup. There was room in him for something to move through. And the things that move through an empty cup leave a mark that is different from anything the full cup can produce. I am not going to tell you the second version of yourself is more comfortable than the first. It is not. The certainty is gone, some of the arrogance is gone, some of the specific confidence that made certain things easy goes with the breaking. What replaces it is not comfortable and not impressive in the same way. But it is real in a way the original version was not. And the people who encounter it feel the difference. Not all people, the people who are capable of feeling the difference. Those are the people who matter. The rebuild that follows a genuine break is not the restoration of what was. It is the construction of what could not have existed before the break. Do not try to get back to what you were. That version of you was the full cup. The empty cup is what you are now. Build from what the emptying made room for. What does that look like in practice? It looks like slower decisions, less performance of certainty, more actual listening. A specific willingness to say you do not know something that the previous version would have covered with confidence. It looks from the outside less impressive. It is from the inside more alive. The seventh thing, the last one. This one carries the most weight of everything in this conversation. You were not kept alive to be comfortable. You were kept alive to go back in. My father Hutton survived Guadalcanal. He came back and never spoke of it, not to my mother, not to his children, not once in the years I knew him. What he carried from that island, he carried silently. But the fact of his having been there, of having been in that specific darkness and come out the other side, it was present in every room he walked into for the rest of his life. Not as a performance, as a quality. The specific weight of a man who has been tested at a level that most men are not tested and who is still standing. I spent years not understanding what I was absorbing from being around him. Not his words. He did not speak much about the things that mattered. Something else. The specific quality of a man who has been in the worst thing and is not afraid of hard things anymore because hard things have already shown him what they are. There is a steadiness in such a man that has nothing to do with the absence of difficulty. It comes from having been in difficulty at its most absolute and finding something on the other side of it. The men who survived Guadalcanal are not the same men who landed there. What they went through removed something and put something else in its place. The something else is not comfortable to carry, but it is real in a way that the original thing was not. And the authority that comes from it, the specific capacity to enter rooms where other people are in their own darkness and to carry something useful into those rooms is not available by any other route. A man who has not been broken can speak about what he knows. A man who has been broken and came through speaks from a place nobody can argue with, not because he is impressive, because he has been there. He knows the specific texture of it, he sat in it, and the people who are in it themselves feel that from across a room before he has said a word. That is not an accident. That is the point of it. Marcus Aurelius wrote every night to hold himself accountable to the man he was supposed to be. He was doing something specific. He was refusing to let what he had been through go to waste. Every hard thing, every position lost, every death witnessed, he was converting it deliberately into the material of how he lived, not performing the conversion, doing it quietly, in the dark, when nobody would have known if he had simply done nothing with it. Instead, he understood what the breaking was for. And he understood the obligation it created. The obligation is this: a man who has been through the fire and come back has access to rooms that the unbroken man cannot enter. Not by choice, by nature. The man who is in his own darkness right now, sitting in what I described at the beginning of this conversation, does not need a capable man talking at him about resilience. He needs a man who has sat in the same room and can say, I know what this is, I know the specific quality of it, and I know what it is for. That is not something you can manufacture. It only comes from having been there. And the specific responsibility of having been there and having come through is to go back in. Not to perform the going back in. To actually be in the rooms where people are where you were, and to carry what you found in that room into those rooms with you. That is what my father did, in his way, without ever speaking of it. Every room he walked into, for the rest of his life after Guadalcanal, he brought the weight of having been through something and not been destroyed by it. It was not spoken. It did not need to be spoken. It was simply there. And the people in those rooms who needed it felt it. Not his words. The quality of a man who had been tested and was still standing. That is available to you. Not from comfort, from having been through it and not wasted it. The question is not whether you have been broken. The question is whether you go back in. The break is not the end of your story. It is not even the middle. It is the beginning of the only part that matters, the part where what you were made to carry has somewhere to go, where the emptiness left by the breaking becomes the capacity for something real, where the man who went in comes out as something the man who went in could not have been. Most men who hear this are somewhere in the middle of it, not yet able to see what the break is for. I want to say something to those men directly. You are not being destroyed. You are being emptied. The difference is everything. What you are losing is the full cup. What is being made is the capacity for something real that is not comfortable information in the middle of the losing. I am not asking you to feel good about it. I am asking you to hold open the possibility that the thing you are asking to be removed might be the thing that needs to go. That the answer to the prayer you have been repeating might not be no. It might be not that way, this way. Most men who hear this will take some of it and rebuild with it. They will feel the truth of it and then continue doing what they have been doing. That is fine. That has always been true. But some of you are deep enough in the break that the old options are genuinely gone. You cannot rebuild the way you were rebuilding. The materials are not there. For those of you, that is not the disaster it feels like, that is the clearing. Put this on again on the hardest day, not the easiest day. The day the floor is furthest from underneath you. That is the day this applies most. Write down the specific thing you are most afraid of losing right now. The one thing you have been trying to protect from the breaking. Under it write, what if this is the cup? What if this is exactly what needs to go so that room is made? Keep that paper. Read it on the days it is hardest. The breaking was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of the only part that matters. Go back in.